Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here at RV Fix. Today we're going to take a look at the RV door, take a look at a few things that we do for preventive maintenance, and maybe some things to make work a little bit better. And at the very end, I've even got a safety tip bonus for you. Stay tuned. Hey folks, RV Fix here. Today we're going to do some work on our RV door. Do some preventive maintenance and things to make it close just a little bit easier. Take the inner plate off of the door latch. And then the outer two screws on the deadbolt and the latch itself. Pull this out. Pull this out. There we go. There's the whole door lock assembly. Now I'll go ahead and take the back panel off, and this will give us access to the latch and the sliding areas inside. I have worked on this before, and I actually drill shallow holes in the latch, and I'll show you those when I get this off, so that I can keep a little lubrication in there. So there we've got this open and that open. You can see the spring in here, so all this will need some lube. It's been a year since I've done this, so it can use some more lube. There's the spring, I'll get that out of the way. There we go. You can see here I put a couple of small holes, a few small holes in here, a few small holes in the sides, and that side could use some more lube. So I've got a can of white lithium grease here. I'm going to spray a little of that in here, make a mess. A little bit on the slide itself. Also down inside the toggle here, this part. Grease that up good. Okay, then I put it back together. Put it right on top there. Push down in, reset the spring. The standard door latch is a lot like this. This is the keyless, obviously, but it's very similar. I've done both, and there's no difference really. Just got to make sure you get everything put back the way it was when you opened it up. Put a little extra in there so when I close it, there's the back side. Check these edges too and make sure that there are no sharp edges. Take a little file if you need to and smooth those off. That'll make the door latch work easier. That back on like that. this up a little bit, including the table. Got a little crazy there. And that's ready to bolt back on. Here's the other part of the equation, the door handle part from the inside. Give that a quick shot. Both sides. And they're ready to go back on. Got a little of my Meguiar's wax with cleaner. Got the locking mechanism and the locking knob have to line up. The deadbolt, missed it. Just make sure that you get the door latch so it pulls back that slide. And also your door deadbolt is working. That's the biggest part of the challenge, is just getting that stuff lined up. So I'll finish this up. Now before I get those tight, let me give that a little bit of a wiggle and kind of make it look centered and even and square so it doesn't look odd, and also operate it a few times to make sure that there's no bind. We want to make it better, not worse. Latch plate, same for it. When you're working with it, right before you tighten it down and drop the screws in the ground. That's all right. Put that back together. Try it. Everything looks good. Cinch it down. Give everything that last test. So it's good and tight. That one was loose. Excellent. Deadbolt works great. Now we'll take a look at the other side, the catch plate. I've got a little wax on here, and that'll help that work a little smoother. Work that in there a little bit. I have actually taken sandpaper and smoothed the edges on that just a little bit. And don't forget, if it's too tight or too loose, slid in or too far out, it can make the door hard to operate. If it's too far out, it won't seal. If it's too far in, you just can't get it to close. And that's going to bring me to another subject that I'll talk about here briefly. Okay, I've got one other thing that is very interesting about the door. When I first bought this rig, I would slam the door shut, and the one day my golden retriever was out of the camper when we got home from work, and he was just laying around underneath it. But anyway, so the door wasn't latching tight, and I did what I showed you. I went in and I greased the latches and rounded things off and made it work as smooth as I could, and it still would pop open. So here's what I found, and I'll show you how to check for this. I've got my little block that I use for my snaps. It doesn't matter what thickness this is or how wide it is. You just want to put this in at the bottom of the door, and I'm going to have to tape this shut so that it stays tight. So I've got that taped. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement at the door frame, from the door frame to the door, and I've got 2 3/8 inches. So I'm going to go all the way up the door, and I'm going to look at that. Now what I'm looking for is a bow in the door. The actual frame of the door had a bow in it. So by measuring from the door to the frame, you're looking for that original thickness of 2 3/8 all the way up the door. 2 3/8. I took the door off, laid it on a picnic table, put a couple of 2x4s under it, and I pushed the door in to straighten it out, actually, to get away from this direction and to go this direction. So it was straight up and down. Okay, so we've got the door latch working real good. Now let's take a look at the gasket. You can see here I've got an inch gap at the bottom of the door where the gaskets don't meet. It's letting cold air in. Not quite as much at the other end, but there is some gap. You can even see the gap where the gaskets are rubbing on the door sill. So I'm going to peel the gasket off, and then I'm going to spray it with spray adhesive. And I'm going to move it to one end or the other. When I put on spray adhesive, I put it on really, really heavy on one surface, and then I run over and I stick it to what I want to have it fastened to. Generally, you're supposed to spray both sides, but I find this way is a lot less messy when you're spraying up against your camper. So I just get it on there really well. Get it stuck down. You can tell it doesn't want to stick. And then as soon as I get it up there, I peel it off, and then I let it dry for the 2 or 3 minutes it's supposed to dry. And then I go ahead and I put it on for the final time. I moved that clear over to the right hand side so it's snug up against that, and then I can just put in some gasket on the other end to make up the difference. I'll wipe that off with just a little bit of acetone to get the extra spray adhesive off. And here you can see how much gap that I had total at the bottom of the door. And I've got a little chunk of gasket material that I've already sprayed with spray adhesive, and I'm just going to fill that in. It might not be perfect, but it's going to be a lot better than it was. Next thing I'm going to do is just a little spray adhesive, lithium grease on the hinges, top, middle, and bottom. I just spray it on, and then I take a rag and kind of wipe it in. Here's my final tip, and it's a good one. I do this when I first get my rig. This one's already rounded off. This corner in the bottom of the door is always pointy sharp. Some little kid or a small dog coming up the steps can hit that and cut their head open. So I always take a file and I just round that off. It makes it a lot safer. That's it. Hey, that's it for today. If you guys like my content, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell, and that'll let you know when I post new content. Thanks a lot at RV Fix.